The air was unnaturally still that night, clinging to the windshield like a film of sweat. Officer Daniel Mercer adjusted the volume knob on the dash. Not for the music, he kept it low on patrol, but for the illusion of control. It was nearing 1 a.m. as he cruised along the crumbling shoulder of State Route 96, a forgotten stretch of road that curled like a dead snake along the Klamath River. Locals called this part of Siskiyou County the edge of things. It wasn't on account of the geography, though you could walk 10 minutes into the hills and be gone forever. It was a vibe, a mood. The land here didn't want company, and folks respected that. But lately, the land had been less subtle. Daniel was on a rotating shift, state budget cuts, and tonight, his beat included an old Forest Service road where hikers had gone missing twice in the last 6 months. The reports were vague, but both incidents had the same eerie detail. Tents abandoned, gear untouched, no signs of struggle. Just gone. He sipped lukewarm gas station coffee and exhaled sharply. "Just keep it simple," he muttered. "Eyes open, don't linger." He turned off the highway onto Wren Hollow Road, a gravel artery half reclaimed by nature. The cruiser's high beams speared through the trees, catching glimpses of dust and tiny insects in the cone of light. Pine needles rattled across the hood. To Daniel's left, the forest pressed in. Old-growth redwoods with black bark and tangled underbrush, damp and silent. At the 3-mile mark, he killed the engine. He always liked to listen. Not for anything in particular, just listen. But tonight, the silence was suffocating. No crickets, no owls, not even the wind through the branches. Just a brittle kind of nothing, like the world was holding its breath. He stepped out, boots crunching gravel, and scanned the trees with his flashlight. The beam flicked across trunks and shadows, illuminating the skeletal outline of an old fire tower further up the ridge, long decommissioned and supposedly sealed. Except the padlock on the chain-link gate was open. It hung crookedly like a lolling tongue. He radioed dispatch. "Unit 29, I'm at Forest Road 13 off Wren Hollow. Gate to the tower's unsecured. Requesting backup for sweep." There was a long hiss of static followed by a garbled reply. "Up, 30 minutes out. Use caution." "Great." Daniel pushed open the gate and began the slow walk toward the tower. The gravel crunched differently here. Softer, almost wet. A faint odor hung in the air, like scorched metal, and something sweeter beneath it. Something wrong. His flashlight flickered. "Cheap batteries," he muttered, smacking the handle. The light returned, dimmer than before. He kept walking. Halfway up the path, he noticed something odd. Boot prints. Several sets, not his. They weaved and doubled back erratically, as if whoever made them had no idea where they were going, or what they were running from. Then something else. Carved into a low wooden signpost nearly hidden by moss. Noli me tangere, Latin. He didn't speak it, but the message was clear enough. "Do not touch me." Daniel stopped 10 feet from the base of the tower. The steel structure loomed above, its silhouette clawing at the sky. He panned his flashlight up the steps. One by one, they vanished into darkness. Something creaked above him. He froze. Again the sound. Not the wind, not an animal. It was deliberate. A slow, dragging shift of weight, like someone or something was up there. And then all at once, a shape dropped from the top. A burlap sack. It thudded against the ground at his feet and spilled open. Daniel recoiled. Inside were bones, small, brittle, scorched black. Animal? Maybe. But some were distinctly, not. Among them was a badge. Old, tarnished, but readable. Deputy Carl Hewitt, Siskiyou County Sheriff. Hewitt had gone missing in 1996. Daniel slowly reached for his radio, but all he got was static. Something laughed, soft and high and very far away. Or maybe it wasn't far at all. The radio crackled to life behind him, but the voice that came through wasn't dispatch. It wasn't even in English. Daniel spun around, the flashlight dancing wildly through the darkness. The gate was still open. The patrol cruiser stood where he left it, but the air, it had changed. It felt thicker now, not humid but dense like walking underwater. He bent to inspect the bones again. The badge was real, standard issue from 2 decades ago. But what unsettled him more were the scorch marks. The bones weren't just burned, they were etched faintly with symbols, circles intersecting lines, strange geometric curves. Not tribal, not decorative, more like instructions. He bagged the badge and snapped a photo of the bones for the report. though he already knew they wouldn't show up right on the screen. Things like this never did. He should have waited for backup. He knew that. But something pulled him toward the tower. Not curiosity, not duty, something else. He began to climb. The stairs groaned under his weight. Some were rusted clean through, others slick with moss. About halfway up, the woods opened behind him. Just a sliver of night sky, littered with stars. But even the stars felt wrong, shifted somehow, like someone had redrawn the map while no one was looking. When he reached the top, the door to the lookout was open, and the air inside was freezing. Daniel stepped in, sweeping his light across the room. Dust hung suspended in the beam like ash. There was a desk in the corner, its surface covered in mildewed paperwork, an overturned chair, a lantern that looked recently used. But no one, at least not anymore. On the far wall, someone had painted over the windows with tar or something blacker. It absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. Below the window, etched into the wood with jagged precision, were 4 words. It watches from beneath. Beneath what? The tower? The forest? The world? He turned, intending to leave, when the floor shifted beneath him. A hollow thunk. He dropped to one knee and ran his hand over the boards. There, at the back of the room, was a trap door. Not standard issue, added later, sloppily, covered by an old rug that reeked of ammonia and mildew. He pried it open with his flashlight and peered down into the darkness. A ladder, metal, rusted, descending into solid earth. This made no sense. Towers didn't have basements, especially not ones built 30 feet off the ground. His breath was loud now. Too loud. Each inhale scraped like gravel in his throat. Still, he descended. The first few rungs held. The next few groaned like something ancient waking up. Then he was inside. The ladder dropped him into a corridor. Narrow earthen walls, smooth as glass. No roots, no moisture, just a tunnel cut too clean for hand tools, but too crude for machines. The air was dead, not stale, dead. No oxygen, no movement. He walked, one step, then another. The flashlight flickered again. When it steadied, he saw the carvings. Every inch of the walls was covered. Not just symbols now, but images. Grotesque humanoid forms with elongated jaws and eyes like tunnels. Their mouths were filled with teeth that spiraled inward. Below them, humans knelt, worshipping or bleeding, or both. The path opened into a chamber. Circular, high-ceilinged. At the center was a pit. Not deep, just a shallow depression filled with stagnant water that smelled of rust and rot. And at the very center, something moved, something slick. Something breathing. He should have run. He wanted to. But his legs refused. The thing in the pit shifted just slightly, a ripple across the surface, and then a sound, not in his ears, but inside his skull. A language he didn't know but recognized, like a lullaby sung backward, and he understood. This wasn't the forest's secret. This was its heart. The hum came first. It wasn't loud. Not like a machine or static or anything mechanical. It was quiet, too quiet, like it was meant to go unnoticed, like it had always been there, hiding behind the silence. It thrummed through Daniel's ribs, vibrating his spine, making the edges of his vision pulse. The thing in the pit never fully emerged. It didn't need to. The shape alone was wrong. It didn't rise, but unfolded, peeling back the water like skin from a wound. No eyes, no limbs, just a dense coil of shadows and flesh and memory. It didn't move. It remembered itself into motion. And Daniel remembered something too. Not his past, not even his own thoughts. He remembered standing in a place that had no sky. He remembered kneeling. He remembered being watched. And then it was gone. The shape, the pit, the carvings, all of it. He was lying on the forest floor again, flashlight flickering beside him, its beam sputtering against a bed of moss. The tower loomed behind him, silent and sealed, like it had never been opened. Daniel sat up, gasping. The taste in his mouth was metal and dust. His boots were soaked. His radio was dead. When he checked his phone, it was 4:36 a.m., over 3 hours unaccounted for. But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst was the sound. The hum, still there just beneath the eardrum, a constant low vibration inside his head. He stood, legs shaking, and made it back to the cruiser. When he flipped the ignition, the headlights wouldn't turn on. The engine sputtered, then caught. He drove, slow, cautious, eyes locked on the road. He didn't call dispatch. He didn't file a report. What would he even say? Found a forgotten stairway into something that wasn't a place, beneath a tower that isn't supposed to have a basement, and touched something that wasn't supposed to be awake. No one would believe him. He barely believed himself. By the time he reached the highway, the sun was threatening the horizon. Orange light bled through the trees, washing the hills in fire. It should have comforted him. It didn't. He went home, showered twice, and didn't sleep. Not that day, not the next. But he kept hearing it, the hum, always just at the edge, and soon he noticed other things too. Shadows that lingered too long, animals behaving strangely, birds flying in tight circles over dead fields, raccoons seen during the day, watching, and dreams. God, the dreams. Each night, Daniel fell into a black ocean and woke choking, not on water, but on words. Foreign syllables burned into his throat like smoke. Each night they grew clearer. Each night they sounded more like instructions. By the end of the week, he wasn't sure if he was dreaming at all. Daniel stopped going to work. Not officially, he hadn't quit, hadn't turned in his badge, but he couldn't patrol after dark anymore. Couldn't even look at a watch after sunset without his chest tightening. It was as if the hours themselves had teeth. At first, no one noticed. Small towns like this, people keep to themselves. They assume you're tired or dealing with something personal. And Daniel didn't offer a different story. He just stopped answering his phone, closed the blinds, let his lawn die. But the hum didn't stop. He could feel it behind his eyes now, like pressure building slowly, like something waiting for him to crack. The dreams were no longer just at night. They came during daylight naps, during long blinks, sometimes when he was still awake. And always, they ended in the same place. That pit, that chamber, that thing. But what truly haunted him wasn't the creature. It was the others. They stood behind it. Human shapes. Dozens, maybe more. Watching silently, faces blurred or masked or too far gone to recognize. Every time, he could feel their attention drilling into him like nails. They knew him. They had always known him. And in the center of their circle, one of them began to speak. Every time the same phrase, "We are what remembers you." Then silence. Then the hum again. He tried driving out of town once, packed a duffel, fueled the cruiser, pointed west. But the road stretched longer than it should have. Town after town blurred together. The radio played nothing but a single tone, steady and cold. And then he was back. Without turning around, without remembering the return, just back. Like the forest didn't let go. One morning, Daniel found the badge again. Deputy Carl Hewitt's badge. He'd locked it in an evidence drawer. Hadn't touched it since that night. But there it was, on his kitchen counter, clean, polished, as if freshly issued. The metal was ice cold, and on the back a new detail had been etched. Fine, sharp lines, barely visible under the surface. Coordinates. A location deep in the woods. Near the tower, but not quite there. And beside it, something else. Another name, his own. He didn't plan to go back, but the badge stayed where he found it, on the counter, gleaming, insistent. Every time he passed it, something turned in his stomach. Not fear, not quite. Recognition. The coordinates burned in his mind like they'd always been there, like he'd drawn them as a kid and forgot. By the second day, he stopped pretending. He packed a flashlight, a thermos of coffee, a new set of batteries, and a loaded sidearm. The morning he left, the sun never quite rose. The sky stayed pewter gray, washed out and brittle, like the light itself had faded. He didn't use the cruiser this time. He drove his old pickup. No radio, no GPS, just analog maps and instinct. The trail wasn't on any chart. It didn't look like a trail at all. Just a break in the trees, too narrow for vehicles, swallowed by bramble and thorns, but unnaturally straight, as if it had been carved, not by animals or erosion, but by something with intent, something that knew he'd come. Daniel followed it for what felt like an hour, maybe two. Time turned strange out there. The woods grew denser, but quieter. Even his footsteps began to sound muted, as if absorbed by the soil. Then he saw it. The clearing, perfectly circular, trees bending outward like they were repelled by the center. Nothing grew inside. No grass, no roots, just flat, dry earth and something built of stone in the middle. At first glance, it looked like an altar, but not one made for worship. It was low and wide and pitted with age, covered in more of those spiral carvings he'd seen beneath the tower. The surface was stained, dark, old. He approached slowly. No birds, no wind. And then, right as he reached the edge, a sound broke the silence. Not a hum this time. A voice. "You came back wrong." Daniel spun. No one there, just trees, just fog beginning to curl low across the ground like breath. "You brought something with you." He turned again, sidearm raised. Still nothing. Then he looked down at his shadow. It didn't match him. It was standing still, but different, elongated, out of sync with the sun. It began to move before he did, only by a second, a twitch, a stagger, but enough to know. It wasn't a shadow, it was remembering him, and then it stepped forward. Daniel didn't run. He couldn't. His legs were locked, spine frozen, heart hammering like it wanted to escape through his ribs. The thing that stepped from the ground looked exactly like him, but not now, not recent. It looked like an older version, weathered, hollowed, like a man who had seen something ancient and never stopped seeing it. The copy tilted its head, the same way Daniel did when he didn't understand something. But this wasn't confusion. It was study, calculation, like it was remembering how to be him. Then it smiled, wrong, too wide, too many teeth, teeth where they shouldn't be, and then it spoke. "It's better when you don't fight it." Daniel raised his weapon, hands shaking. "Stop right there." The copy took another step. Daniel fired. The shot cracked the clearing like a thunderclap. The thing jerked, staggered, but didn't fall. Instead, it laughed, not loudly, quiet, personal, like it had just shared a joke with him. Then it touched his chest where the bullet hit and drew a spiral in the blood, just like the ones carved in the altar. "One of us has to stay," it whispered. "It remembers in pieces, but it only needs one piece to grow." Daniel backed away, but his feet no longer touched dirt. The ground had changed. The clearing was gone. He stood now inside a chamber. Round walls, black stone, those same carvings, spirals, symbols, ancient diagrams that throbbed like veins. In the center, the altar, and on it himself, eyes wide open, still breathing, still bleeding. He turned, but there was no exit, no forest, only walls, and a ceiling that moved, a ceiling with pupil-shaped holes. Watching, always watching. "Do you understand now?" the thing said. "We don't dream it, it dreams us." And as the lights above began to close, like lids over 1,000 eyes, Daniel felt something pulling at his thoughts, stripping memories, chewing identity, threading it back into the place. He opened his mouth to scream, but no sound came, only a hum, familiar, welcoming, final. A week later, they found his truck, keys still in the ignition. No sign of a struggle, no blood, just a thin trail of boot prints that led into the woods and never came out. A search party was assembled, rangers, deputies, a few volunteers who hadn't heard the older stories. They swept the forest for 3 days. They found nothing. No prints, no camp, no tower. Even Wren Hollow Road was gone. It showed up on maps. It existed on paper. But on foot there was nothing there. Just a dense wall of trees and undergrowth that resisted even machetes. Like the land had healed over the scar. Some said Daniel ran off, cracked under the pressure, took off into the hills like people used to back in the gold rush days, chasing phantoms. But some remembered differently. The older deputies, the ones who'd worked the mountain long enough, they didn't speak much. But they started locking the patrol station before sunset, and one quietly transferred to Sacramento the following month. Something had changed, and the locals could feel it. Animals grew restless. Power flickered on windless nights. People began reporting strange dreams, always the same place, a pit, a humming. One man walked 6 miles barefoot in the rain before collapsing on the doorstep of the sheriff's office, muttering a phrase over and over. "It wears his face now, but it doesn't blink right." The sheriff tried to dismiss it. Stress, small-town paranoia, but late one evening a call came in over the dispatch radio. Scratchy, broken, but clear enough. A voice, Daniel's voice. "Unit 29, checking in. Silence is a door, and it's open now." Then static, no origin, no response. The next day, the dispatch log showed no record of the transmission, but the night shift all heard it. And one of them, Rookie Deputy Kyle Rivas put in for reassignment that morning. No explanation, just a note left in his locker. 4 words, scrawled in charcoal. It watches from beneath.